Next, we will move to internal audits, sections 4284P and 414 of the standard. Section 4284P requires you to have a procedure for internal audits. So look at the more detailed 414. 414 notes the lab shall periodically and in accordance with a predetermined schedule and procedure conduct internal audits of its activities to verify that its operations continue to comply with the requirements of this management system and the international standard. This means that labs must have a procedure for how they are going to conduct internal audits, along with a schedule for when they will conduct them. TNI notes that labs must conduct audits annually, so a lab must audit their quality system and all of their technologies every year. A lab can choose to do their whole system at one time, or spread it out and do it in parts over the course of the year, just as long as the lab has completed the full audit within that year. If possible, depending on the size of the lab, you should try not to audit your own section. I know this is not always possible for all labs, but if you can, try and get a new set of eyes on your section. When findings arise during the audit, the lab must open and complete corrective actions for them. Labs can follow their corrective action procedure for these, but make sure you keep a record of them being internal audit corrective actions. You must notify clients if, during the course of the audit, anything is found that could impact data. Labs will need to have a policy for this. Finally, make sure you're keeping records of audits along with records of the corrective actions and records of any follow-up activities. Having a dedicated checklist for your internal audit is a great tool to make internal audits easier and also to help you have something to compile your notes in. Creating your own checklist is a great approach to take for this, as it will be tailored to your specific organization. Creating your own checklist is a big undertaking, though, and might not be the easiest options for most labs. Luckily, there are checklists available you can work from. The TNI checklist is a bit big and cumbersome, but can be a great jumping off point to start from. The internet also has resources you can work with. The EPA Drinking Water Certification Manual has a nice checklist for microbiology, and you can use, and accreditation bodies might have items that can work from as well. Be sure when you're performing your audit, you're not just checking boxes and moving on. The more notes and more details you can make your checklist or audit document, the better. More information will help you when you're reviewing your notes and will also make your audit a more powerful tool in reviewing your organization. Remember, with internal audits, you must have a procedure. You need to note when it will be completed, who is responsible for completing it, and what will be utilized. We want to make sure that we plan it. You have to have a documented schedule. Doing it all at once or over time, make sure the schedule gets documented. You can even do a monthly review that is documented and then compiled at the end of the year. Utilize other staff. Quality manager must plan and make sure it happens, but other staff can help with the internal audit. Anyone with demonstrations of capability or general knowledge of the test can assist. New staff members are an amazing tool. Have them follow along with the SOP and note anything that did not match up, and then help the analyst decide if the SOP needs to be updated or if they need to change what they're doing. Here are a couple of helpful hints on performing the actual audit. When performing the audit, a great way to go about your review is to perform a vertical audit. This is where you take a chain of custody or a work order and follow it back through the records to the report. This will allow you to take a look at the sample receipt section, contracts, sample storage and handling, environmental conditions, possibly, equipment records of the equipment used on that test, reagent records, training records of who performed the test, quality control that was performed, and finally review the report itself and reporting procedure. That's a lot of sections from one chain of custody, and you might even be able to cover a few other areas in there as well. Another great way is to ask a neighboring lab or a lab you are friendly with to trade internal audits. This allows a new set of eyes to be on your organization, which can help uncover new things. Here's a great example of how you can use a checklist. You can mark the yes or no on the checklist, but it is also helpful to put some notes to better understand what you reviewed. The top deficiencies that we see here are labs completing their internal audits within the annual time frame. Especially as we are moving a bit out of COVID, many labs have had to shift their schedules around, and some have moved past their internal audit time frame. Be sure you are performing your audit annually. We also see audits that do not cover all of the items that are needed. Annually, a lab will need to cover the quality systems and all of their technologies. Like we stated before, you can cover this over a few spaced out audits or one big audit. Just be sure you cover everything.